there are so many new, fresh perspectives that are challenging, but development and peace were never going to be easy. And I think for the longest time we've been sticking to a model where women haven't necessarily been involved. And looking at the state of conflicts in the world, looking at my region and my country, I don't think it's working. And this is a very fresh perspective, but very well delved into research and theory and statistics. And this is the next phase. This is the new step of leadership. This is a new way of looking at security that actually will contribute to more harmonious international relations and more security for women on the ground, changing the way we look at conflict and war and the necessity of war. Because as of right now, the diction has been that war is necessary for peace. And as ridiculous as that sounds, people didn't question it because of fear. And that was the cycle that you'd have fear and then violence and then more conflict, and it just keeps on going around. And we're surrounded in this work in general by women who challenge that concept and feel and have proven that there are better ways to go about it. Well, this is where you start talking about the societal gender roles and how we're raised, and it's something that you assume is very typical, that this is natural. Men are not supposed to cry, we're supposed to be dominant. You don't analyze power except of a perspective of if you don't have power, you need to gain power, and that's security. Security is power over other people. And a feminist perspective is that there's a power with other people. And by refusing to get into a dynamic of power over another person, with refusing to see yourself as superior, or to not understand the other person's perspective, or not to understand the complicated histories between us, to not understand that conflict and violence begets more violence, and that it's the marginalized communities that suffer, and the dominant population that is violent, they're suffering too. And I think that's a really interesting thing that feminism does, especially with the new masculinities perspective, how this model isn't working for anybody. So we really do believe in women's leadership, women's participation, a holistic model where we include men and women into this, where we talk about gender norms, gender equality, gender equity, how that needs to be there for society to become developed and peaceful. It's strategic and it's intelligent and it's active and it's very conflict oriented, but not war or violence oriented. It's approaching conflict as a disagreement between two different people who can then challenge themselves to see how they're stronger with a union and how they work with one another, than abolishing one or the other, or having one be submissive to the other, and that's how we solve the conflict. That doesn't solve anything. I think we do a good job of working with the community, working within the culture. We do a lot of work with religious leaders, do a lot of work with men, do a lot of work with women survivors, a lot of youth and youth activism. Politically, I feel that there's still a little bit of time to go, but I believe that a lot of our politics are also immersed in former militant groups that are still highly militarized, and the first step is to create a dialogue with everyone, where everyone can be present. And that will take some time, but that we're available to work with everyone, and we want to work with everyone. But solutions that entail shooting, killing, war, fighting, violence, they're not solutions for us. They're an escape. They're a lie that people like to tell themselves, that this is bravery and this will come to some sort of a conclusion. But there's never a conclusion. There's always a new group. People were surprised by Daesh, ISIS, IS, whatever people are calling it now. There's no reason to be surprised. There's always a response to violence that is just as violent. To every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if we think in ways of peace and love and unison, we'll get that. And if we think in terms of violence and conflict and death and war and bullets and bombs, we'll get that too. And I think that that's a very important thing to keep on recognizing, that we've already tried this model. It's not working. So it's time for something new, and I really think it's the seeds of that, the grains of that are within what we're talking about when we talk about women, peace, and security.